Welcome everyone to Wrestling with the Paranormal. Today we are talking all about the legend of the Bell Witch. Does she have a telephone? Is she Graham Bell's brother or sister? Like, who the hell is this Bell Witch? Does she like telephones? I don't know. Anyways, enjoy the show. Holy shit, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I was expecting a jump scare.
I think I jump scared you by being scared. Welcome everyone to Wrestling with the Paranormal, the only podcast in the entire galaxy that is for wrestling fans about the paranormal. How's your week been?
It's been a really busy week. I'm absolutely glad it's Friday and I'm excited to talk about today's show. So, how are you?
I'm great as well. So today we got, we're going to be talking to Le Disciple, George Penning.
Yeah.
As always, we're going to hear the Bowler Truth story. We're also going to learn about, we're going to talk about a little bit of wrestling. We're going to talk about Ric Flair's last match. We're going to talk about the betrayal of the Young Bucks. And what else is going on in the FN Galaxy? I just realized I didn't turn off that generic rock music. Hey, George,
there I am. Good. Just popped in from the Starship Enterprise, so
that is
going pretty good.
Live long and prosper to you, my friend. I think I'd do it better with this hand. I'm a righty, right? So
that one.
Can't really do it as good, like.
Yeah.
Do you do it good with both hands?
No, I
That's
can't do
what she
this
said.
Oh dear. George, how are we?
Oh, we're doing good. How are y'all?
Very good.
So we got a couple shows going on here in effing Wrestling Land here on YouTube. We have this show, what's happening right now.
This one.
Like this moment.
It is.
And then we have tomorrow night, we have the Magic of Wrestling.
Absolutely.
With Liam, the magician.
Ooh.
And then we have the All Effing Wrestling show, the Starship Enterprise, if you will. And we are going to be talking the top 10 wrestlers influenced by Bret the Hitman Hart. So there it is. We also have a new show that just debuted this week. It is the All Effing Wrestling bonus show, which happens after Dynamite every single Wednesday, starting last week. Starting this week or last week? Is it still this week? I guess it is.
This week.
So yeah, there's
yes.
that. There's that. And we announced it on the show on Sunday, but Natalia Markova is now officially effing wrestling property, baby. We're just going to play the video quickly for you here.
Hi, this is Natalia Markova, and surprise, I'm officially the face of effing wrestling. You guys always support me. Thank you for sponsoring me, and I wish you nothing but the best.
I love hearing her say effing wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I can make that be my ringtone, right?
Yeah, why not? Go for it.
Sure.
How was your text tone?
Right. So we also have a new show, kind of part of Liam's show, that's going to happen once a month, and that is AFW Backstage.
That is true.
So that was born as the Bottle Depot, and I passed that off to Liam, and he's going to run with it starting in September. It'll be once a month. If you want to get, if you're in the AFW Prediction League and you want to get on the Bottle Depot, just give him a ring on his Facebook Messenger gimmick. Yes, and
Oh, this isn't working.
yeah. So
yeah,
I guess we're going to talk a little bit of wrestling now.
absolutely. Let's do this.
Yeah. So on Wednesday, we failed to mention this on the All F and Wrestling Show bonus episode. Adam Cole turned on the Young Bucks. Did you guys see this coming?
Yes, but when it comes to
Yeah.
long-term storytelling, I think that it's terrific. I mean, AEW doesn't get the credit it deserves when it comes to long-term storytelling, and we know the history of these guys. So, but I still pop obviously when this happened.
Yeah, but you didn't expect it to happen this week, though, did you?
No, I thought they might have dragged it out a little bit more, but that's the good thing about stuff like this. You never actually know.
What do you think, George?
Well, as for Adam Cole, or I guess as other people still know him, Undisputed Era, it was eventual. They were going to turn on the Elite. After all, they did kill him in most recent years. And as far as tonight went, I felt like something was going to happen because
Tonight?
why would you bring well, not tonight. This past Wednesday, there we go. We're speaking in past terms now, but I felt like something was going to happen because you're bringing back some of your biggest stars who are supposed to still kind of be on the shelf. And what are they going to do? Announce they're going to be wrestling, I don't know, Friday, tonight, next week? So I felt something was apparent. Either they were going to start teasing something before they actually just completely pulled the trigger, which honestly did wonders in terms of long-term storytelling, which was honestly great. And then tying Hangman Page back into the story of is the Elite back together or not?
I thought that was great to have the reunion of Hangman Page and the Bucks in there as well. So what are they going to be called? Adam Page's group. Are they going to be called Undisputed? Are they going to be called Paragon? What do you guys think? Go ahead, Liam.
I think the Paragon name really it's something different. I don't think it'd be something to do with Undisputed because I think that'd be related to WWE so much. So yeah, I'm going to say Paragon.
Or just the Undisputed.
Oh, that, yeah.
What are you thinking, George?
Honestly, I believe the Elite are going to stay the Elite, obviously for obvious reasons. But Adam Cole's group, I did see elsewhere, and I did see someone else ask this around social media, like, who's the Elite? Who's the Undisputed Elite now? Like, where does this group go? I seen someone say, well, Adam Cole's group, Adam Cole and Red Dragon, are just going to be Undisputed Elite, while the Elite stay the Elite because they broke off. But technically, I guess in their terms of what they said is that Adam Cole's group was Undisputed Elite, and Young Bucks were still more the Elite with everyone else.
Well, no, they were wearing the Undisputed Elite shirts too.
Yeah. I think this is also going to be an interesting point to see where Kenny Omega fits in with this because he's obviously got ties with both groups. So I'm kind of excited because there was obviously reports.
Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry. So obviously there were reports that he's due back anytime soon. So could this be like a way to get him back into like a storyline and stuff?
Now you can go two ways with this.
Mm-hmm.
You can have Hangman and the Bucks go for the trios titles, which have been announced, or you can have Omega and the Bucks go for the trios titles. So you can go two ways with that.
Well, that's
Which
also
way would
the
you go?
interesting thing because with the reports on everyone being injured and they might come back early or they might not. I believe at this point, if Kenny Omega was like 85, probably 90%, if he would have came back now, I believe it might have been Kenny and the Bucks versus Cole and Red Dragon, and maybe a Hangman thing later or in it, or we might not have seen this at all.
What do you think, Magician?
I can actually see that. That wouldn't surprise me. I think the thing is with this, there's so many ways you could look at it, but we're just going to have to wait and see because we know what Tony Khan's like. We're all throwing all these ideas out and it'll be completely something different.
Okay, so next we're going to move along to Ric Flair's last match. So it did really well. You got 6,800 fans in the building, which is a lot for an indie show.
Mm-hmm.
It had a gate receipt of 448,502, and between 20 and 25K streaming pay-per-view buys. This is the highest independent wrestling gate of all time, which of course is second behind All In.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I mean, it's Ric Flair. I mean, the guy's still got a big name draw. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, yeah, I know the fact he's knocking on now. His age is obviously there, but I did actually watch the match, and I'm like, do you know what? This is really interesting. I think it's a great
Okay, so
way
you
to.
watched it.
I have. The match is actually pretty good. I would recommend it to anybody.
Okay, so what did you think of Ric Flair's performance?
For his age, I would say it's okay. I'm not going to say it's the best because, do you know what I mean? With the way, obviously, with wrestlers we see these days, it was okay, but it's still a put on a performance, which we know Ric Flair can do.
Yeah. And the undercard was pretty good, right?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't quite remember any for the matches, but there were some interesting ones on there.
Okay. What are your thoughts, George, on Ric Flair's last match?
Well, this was definitely a long journey on the Ric Flair's final match because I'm pretty sure there were more after the first original Ric Flair's final match. But anyway, um, I did see bits and pieces of the match, and I do agree for his age. I believe he did great, and of course, the name Ric Flair, it's still gonna be a big seller, big draw, whether he's wrestling or just showing up or just doing his usual Flair stuff.
You know
Woo!
what I would have
And
done instead of how they had him to the ring?
what?
I would have had a helicopter drop him off.
Oh dear.
Oh gosh, I think that might have been over budget.
Yeah, but did you guys see the meme of
But I did.
the joke thing? Ric Flair's last match 2 with Nick Gage. Did you see that one that was going around?
Yeah,
I've not seen that.
It was a bit of a joke, but
Ric Flair's last match 2 versus
yeah.
Nick Gage in a death match.
Yeah. But okay, all joking aside, could we have a last match 2, not with Ric Flair, but possibly another wrestler who wants to have his last match? And you could do this every once in a while.
Now, would this just be only indie events if they wanted to, or
It's put on by Jim Crockett Promotions, as you saw from the
okay?
videos and stuff. It's still an indie promotion, but you could I know Undertaker, maybe. Who else? Could be lots of guys
Undertaker,
that you could have one
Undertaker and
last match.
Undertaker and Sting. I think everybody
Oh
wants
my
to.
goodness,
Yeah.
Undertaker, Sting. They're both of their last matches. Just
I
That'd be like a double.
I don't think Undertaker. Do you think Undertaker would like Sting jumping off things, doing youngster stuff now in the match?
well,
No, but
if they, you know what, they would have a lot of buys on this. If they did Undertaker, Sting,
yeah.
and they called it the last match, and it's just the name of the pay per view now, the last match.
I'm gonna go out on a limb with this. With your idea, I'm gonna go out on a limb, saying the first time we get an AEW x WWE pay per view, like we did with AEW and New Japan, this will be that match that's on it: Undertaker versus Sting for both of their final matches.
I don't
sorry.
see it happening. I don't see it happening.
I'm sorry. I'm actively against an AEW cross WWE pay per view. I don't think it works.
All right, which means it brings us to our next bit on the show. It's time for Bull or Truth with Linda Sapel.
It still gets me
That's
that
me.
picture.
All right, George, what do you got for us today?
All right, so this one is kind of a short one today, but well, we start off with the question: is there a multiverse? And this kind of, I'd say, I kind of guess his age around probably middle age. It really wasn't specified. And this man, Mr. Crap, what was his name now? Dang it, what was it? Steven, there it is. Steven. He's been having these dreams. Steven. He's been recently having these dreams of what seems like another life, and he does have a family, but
Wait, this is an
he's been having
episode
these
of Star
weird
Trek:
sort of
The Next
dreams
Generation,
anytime he goes to
where
bed.
Captain Luke Picard lives a whole life.
Ooh. But he's been having these dreams. First they started off randomly, but then they started following him as the days, weeks, and months went by, of what he perceives as visions of what seems like another life. Now, these lives aren't too much different. Obviously, he's there, and it would kind of be different events of, I don't know, maybe he had a different wife, had a boy instead of a girl, of his
Got a white
family,
cat
and
instead of a
just,
black cat.
ooh, little yin and yang there going. And just like little bits and pieces moved in and out or changed. And even what is it? Even going as far as kind of just like touching someone, or just like seeing his wife the next morning on another thing that happened where he went to put his hand on her shoulder, and he had kind of like a random vision that popped into his head of something that perceived to happen in another life that didn't happen at that moment, as if it was perceived to be coming in like the next 5 minutes. That didn't
George, I
happen.
thought you said this was short.
Yeah, this is like
Well,
longer
it
than any
was.
other one.
It was. That was about it. You stopped me at the ending.
All right. I went first last time, magician. So you're gonna have to tell me if this is real or not first.
I'm kind of torn with this one because some parts I find believable, but some parts I don't. But I think it's true for some reason. I really do.
I'm gonna say this is false. This is bull.
Well, this one is false.
Damn it!
If you want to know where I got this,
It
last
sounds
night
like
I
a
just watched.
movie. It sounds like a movie.
It
Or a
is
Star Trek
actually.
episode.
I knew
It is actually. Now, can you guess what movie it is
I have
that I watched
no idea.
yesterday?
No idea.
Not a
I have
clue.
taken this inspiration from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Of course he has.
Hence, I just watched it for the first time yesterday.
You know what's
So
nice? You know
I,
what's nice about this story is that he's telling it like he's remembering it, and so that's how he fooled you.
Yeah, he got me hook, line, and sinker there. I'm really impressed.
All right, we'll see you next week, Le Disciple.
Bye, George.
alrighty, see y'all. Have a great time.
That was an interesting story. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, he got you good.
Yes.
And now we are going to move into our next segment. It's story time with Canada Dry, baby.
Oh dear, yes, that will go in from my head.
So we're talking about the legend of the Bell Witch. Now, Liam, have you heard of this before? We decided to do this as a topic because you found this topic and you wanted to do it.
Yes, so this is a story which I was told ages ago. So obviously I wanted to cover it, but some parts I did not know. So this is some parts I did know, some parts I didn't. So it's going to be like a learning curve a little bit for me.
Okay, so I'm just going to start it off here for us. In Tennessee, I believe it's Adams, Tennessee, and this began 200 years ago, and this haunting still goes on today. And the claim to fame about this Bell Witch thing is that it is the only time that legally a spirit or an entity has been known to kill someone. It's the only time that it's ever. They're
First
like, oh yeah,
documented
yep,
death.
write this down. He's killed by a demon or something of such. So we go all the way back, or time travel with me to 1804. John Bell and his wife Lucy Bell and 10 other families. They're traveling from Edgecombe, North Carolina, to Red River, Tennessee. I don't know what was going on. That 10 families wanted to leave North Carolina to Tennessee, but maybe they heard something good was going on in Tennessee.
I imagine it were a better life, probably.
Yeah, you just hear about these things. There's this bunch of families just traveling together. So the first thing that we have to note is that the Bell family, led by John Bell, they really prospered in their farm life. They did really well for themselves, and the money was flowing in. And something kind of happened where John Bell's integrity was questioned, and people really questioned his character for some of his financial deals. And we also have the Bats family, not the Bat family like Batman's family with Nightwing and all those guys.
No.
The Bats family, they were part of the 10 families that traveled with the Bells. And around 1816, what is his name? His name is Frederick. Frederick gets in a horrible accident on his farm, and he's injured to the point where he can no longer work. So the farm is not being supported. So um, poverty hits them, and they they find that they're to meet their needs. They're going to have to sell off a lot of their land to survive.
Yeah.
And along comes John Bell, who has been prosperous, and he makes a deal to purchase a lot of this land. And I don't know if you know, you probably do, you're a smart guy, purchasing power.
Yes. I know a bit about it. I don't know much about it, but yeah.
So, like, if you have no money, and I know you have no money,
Mm-hmm.
and I want your sweatshirt there, I can offer you a low amount because I know that you need the money more than you need that shirt.
Would that be classed as taking advantage, though, from that perspective, in a way?
It kind of is. It kind of
Yeah.
is. If I know that you need the money and you have something I want, it is. It's taking advantage. Um, when I was a kid, a teenager, my brother, um, he would often go through his allowance really quickly, and I've always been a bit stingy, so I saved some of the money. And he smoked cigarettes, and so um, he wanted money for cigarettes, and so I saw some of the stuff I wanted from his room. I'm like, tell you what, you want a pack of cigarettes? You give me. And it was much more expensive than the cigarettes, so
Mm-hmm.
often I got stuff at a low price because I had purchasing power. Anyways, we go back to the story. Bell is purchasing this land because um, the Bats family is in hard times, and they're getting a steal of a deal on them because they need the money, and so he's giving them a lot less than what they paid for it. And Kate Bell is especially mad that he got this deal at such a low price, and she tells that she tells John Bell that no matter what, I will get even with you and your family. And it comes about that John Bell also has dealings with um, Frederick's brother Benjamin, and Benjamin has a slave girl that John has his eye on. But the problem is she's a little young to kind of take off from her mother at this point. And so, in his mercy, he decides to leave the girl with his mother. And I guess some time goes by. She's a little older now. And um, Benjamin reneges on the deal, and there's some dispute. He wants more money for the girl. And so it turns out that John Bell says, well, we have a contract, we have a deal. If you want to keep this girl, you will be the one paying me more money, not me paying you more money. And so Benjamin agrees to this and pays more money. Uh, and John Bell thinks this is all over. He doesn't have to deal with it no more. But apparently, Benjamin Batts uh, files a lawsuit against John Bell, and he knows nothing of this lawsuit, so he doesn't bother attending the hearing. And apparently, he he lost, and I don't know how, this is the weird part. It comes back to his church.
Yeah, seems the weird bit.
And he tries to explain to them, but they don't want to hear it, and they excommunicate him. So I don't know if this goes back to the 1810s, where he is getting a bit of a bad reputation financially for some of his deals. But I guess the church thought that something was going on funny here, and they excommunicated him. Some say that this excommunication allowed evil to enter John Bell's home. So one day he was out and about in his yard shooting at, I guess, seeing if there's any animals out there. And he had his musket with him. And he noticed a strange animal. It had the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. And
which just seems like a weird animal in its own right.
Yes. A rabbit dog, not a rabid dog, a rabbit dog. So he shoots at this thing and it completely just disappears. Now, this is when things get a little bit more strange. The family now, in the evenings, is starting to hear rocks being thrown at their home. And they go outside to investigate. There's no one there. There's no evidence of anyone being there. This is where I'd like to point out that I've heard other stories, especially on Chris Jericho's podcast. He does a little bit of paranormal here and there. Told a story of like this homeless-looking clown that was seen on someone's property, and he looked really out of place. And someone went to talk to him, and he just kind of growled at them and then disappeared. And the rocks were also being thrown at their house. And this is very similar in these stories. Anyways, so the Bell family, they believed that the Batts family was behind this. They were the ones throwing rocks. And it turns out soon after, they heard scraping, thuds, cluttering. They heard rats in and about the house, gnawing at the footstools of their beds, and they were losing sleep, and they were having trouble with all of this. One night, Betsy Bell, she suffered a bit of an attack. So she heard the noises and she goes to get up. Her hair is tied to the bedpost and an entity slapping her in the face. She's screaming. The family comes and it kind of ends. Now, at this point, people are suspecting that Kate Batts is a witch. It's going around. No one will say it, but they believe that Frederick's injury was punishment from God because of her witchcraft. So this is going on at this point as well. So the family, I'm just going to see if I can keep track of my notes. All right. So in the next weeks that follow, They suffer from seeing strange apparitions. Um, they're slaves in them. They see animals um, that are talking.
Which just sounds creepy in its own
Yeah,
right.
they're talking animals. Um,
Talking.
the sons also begin suffering slaps in their sleep and getting welts on their legs and their face. Um, so at this point, um, John Bell tells his family to keep it hush, and they try to pray it all away by themselves to no avail. Um, at one point, we have Betsy Bell. She's in the field one day and she sees this girl in a green dress hanging from the branches of a tree, and then she disappears. And this will come into play a little bit later, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He will.
So at this point, I'm going to make the tag to you, and I'll
Are
just
you
say,
ready?
make the tag.
Are you ready? Make the tag. Bang.
No, we don't. We're just going to say it.
All right. I'll make the
Make the
tag.
tag.
That's fine. No worries. So my story picks up where Canada Dry's finished off. So obviously with everything going off, John Bell obviously didn't want to get suspicion of obviously all the community. However, with everything obviously going off, he felt like he had no choice. After much deliberation from Lucy, which is obviously his partner, they decided to get help from Sir James Johnston. Now, this was the neighbor. Now, obviously, he went into the house. They tried there several days to, rid the house of evil, doing their own little techniques and stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, they're religious, very religious people back then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably a key thing back then. But sadly, this would not work. Now, Johnston obviously mentioned that it needed to go wider, so it needed to get the whole community on board, which...
So I just want to interrupt you because you missed the key part. At one point, James Johnson demands the spirit identify itself, and it identifies itself as Kate.
Yes, I did miss that point, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
This name, Kate, will be a big thing later as well. So to obviously carry on, the word got spread around the whole community, which then it got passed up to a Andrew Johnson. Now,
Andrew Jackson.
how did it fight with Johnson?
It's the president, the ex-president, Andrew Jackson.
Are you confusing me here?
No, it's the president, the former ex-president, Andrew Jackson. It's not Andrew Johnson.
Right, Andrew Jackson. That's twice
Yeah.
You've got me today. Now, Andrew Jackson
no relation to Michael.
No, we're not going to clarify that, guys. Now, obviously, Andrew Jackson was the general in the, I think it's like the army or some sort like that. He wanted to see it for himself, as they always say. So the idea was for him and a couple of his troops to make the Bell House.
Yes, it's the guy who's on the $20 bill.
Can't tell I'm British. Oh dear. But yeah, so the idea was for him to go to the Bell House with a couple of his guards. But as they were obviously arriving there, one of the guards made a comment about silver bullets. Now, the weird thing is now, because they went with like a horse and carriage, as they call it, the carriage completely just like froze. It was like it was stuck.
So not the horses weren't stopping, the carriage itself.
Just the carriage, yep. And they tried absolutely everything to make this budge, and it was just not going. Now, according to reports, Andrew obviously apologized. This is not documented, by the way, so this is just what's been told. and surprisingly, the carriage just carried on.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a force thing. We're kind of like stopping it because they made a comment,
Right.
which was really weird. Now, obviously, I mentioned that they actually said that they wanted to stay for 7 nights. They only stayed 1 night.
Yeah, 1 night. He thought he was gonna take care of this spiritual thing. He thought he was a macho spiritual dude.
Yep. And apparently, this is not documented. His exact words were, "I'd rather face the British Army than stay another night in the Bell's house." So that just makes you think, how evil must that actual house be for somebody to say a comment like that? Because it is pretty extreme.
And Andrew Jackson later became the president of the United States.
There you go. Sorry for my history, guys.
It's okay. I'm Canadian too. I'm not American.
Now, the whole confusing part.
Should we change this name of this podcast to the non-Americans?
Yes,
Or
do it.
The un-Americans?
We could do, but I think WWE's caught that.
Right. Let me keep it what it is.
Yeah. So the confusing part with this story is Lucy Bell. She was the only one which never really got any, she wasn't harmed in any way. So this asked a lot of questions as to why. Now, however, in 1820, she was diagnosed with pleurisy. Now, I may be wrong about this, but this is like an inflammation of the...
No, that's a horrible name, George. We hate the name of that belt.
So pleurisy is it like an inflammation of the arteries or stuff? I could be wrong about that. Now, obviously, she was diagnosed with that. Now, the name Kate obviously makes a nice little appearance here. Kate would sing hymns and leave hazelnut and grapes at the end of her bed, but apparently from thin air.
Yeah, that's a little bit creepy and far-fetched.
Yeah, this is the creepy bit, but it gets a lot worse. Despite, obviously, over time, Lucy would obviously improve, but John would go the other way. So one would be getting better, one would be getting more sick, which is kind of weird. Really weird. Now, we're going to head to December the 20th. John Bell was found deceased in his bed with He's dead just like that. Now, apparently... Just like that. Now, apparently there was a pungent scent coming from his mouth and a cloudy liquid giving the same scent nearby. So it's kind of like poison, so to speak, if you know what I mean. This is the impression I got. Now, of course, speculation began, and the name which came up was obviously Lucy. However, now this is a quote, what Kate said.
Yeah, so this is something that happened, an audible voice in the house while authorities were there.
Yep. And it said, and this is a quote, "I fixed his medicine last night and gave him a high dose of it. He'll never get out of that bed again."
And that's when the authorities made it official. The only time they gave credit to an entity as killing someone.
Yep. As obviously you mentioned that earlier on. So Kate obviously made an unknown appearance at his obviously memorial. Now, apparently she was supposedly behaving very, I would say, unprofessional. Like she didn't give two craps, whatever, stuff like that. So the actual question was, did she achieve her goal by killing her nemesis? Now, obviously, we know the history, what went up between the bats and the bells. God, that sounds weird. Bats and the bells.
The bats and the bells and the silver spoon.
So, yeah, this
is like
is
a Simon and Garfunkel song, right?
Yes. And like I said, the argument is, did she obviously achieve killing her nemesis? We know the history between these two guys. Now, apparently, after the memorial, the suspicious activity would decline. However, till 1821, A man who goes by the name of Josh Garner obviously made a marriage proposal to Betsy. And this is the really confusing bit for me. I've just seen the comment from George. George,
one?
I'm trying to. That's the one.
The bats out of bells, not out of hell.
Oh dear. Now, we mentioned earlier on the last with the green dress, who was obviously in the tree. Now, apparently, Betsy saw this same person around the same time, and she told him, or told her, sorry, not to get married.
To Gardner.
Yep. So the confusing thing was she called the marriage proposal off, and then Josh Garner would go back home. So
okay, let's just talk about this for a sec. Why, after your traumatic life with hauntings, would you trust a spirit?
Yes, exactly. This is the really confusing bit because it's like
you've had nothing good come from spirits. They've all been tormenting. They killed your dad. And now you want to trust the spirit? And you're like, well, I really love this guy, but you say so, spirit? All right, I'm out. What?
And so, yeah, now apparently to this day, we still hear loads of obviously stories. There's loads to obviously go through. But I've got three little things for you. I want to get your opinion on this. Apparently, Lucy Bell is the youngest sister of John Williams, the senior, the father to Kate Betts. Or Bat, sorry. So they're kind of related in a way, which I kind of didn't really expect this.
Wait, so the Bats and the Bells are a bit related?
Yeah, so apparently Lucy Bell is the youngest sister to John Williams Sr., father to Kate.
Oh, so that's why she was looking after, the spirit of Kate was looking after. But we say the spirit of Kate, but Kate's not dead.
Well, that's the other thing as well. This is the confusing thing. It's Kate was apparently reported alive during this time. So is it Kate? Is it somebody messing? Do you know? Because we know what spirits are like. They can obviously be really. They're not daft. I'm not going to say that because I don't want a spirit to like haunt me.
Okay, so let's go back to the other theory. Is that the title of the thing, Legend of the Bell Witch, is that she is a witch and she is cursing them and casting, making deals with the devil, so harm comes to this family.
Yes, that's thinking that would kind of explain like these talking animals and stuff, because we know that witchcraft can really like be confusing with stuff like animals.
Well, yeah, they can take forms and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What does your shirt say? I'm just curious. Please stop expecting.
Please stop expecting normal from me. We know it's not going to happen.
Well, there we go. Sorry, I suffer from ADD, and I had to know.
No, that's absolutely fine. No worries. So yeah, that's the whole story. Now, of course, there's a lot of theories on this. Now, the first theory is there was a plot between Kate and Lucy. Now, that's the first theory. What do you think?
I'm not buying that for a second. You got another theory?
Well, the interesting thing is with that, the Kate and Lucy one is, I agree with you. I don't think that's possible because you mentioned in your part that obviously the kids were obviously like tied to the bed and stuff, like with their hair.
Yeah, the kids were getting harmed.
Yeah, so I'm kind of ruling this one out. Kate summoned a demon to kill John. Now, this is something you mentioned briefly just then. What do we think to this one?
I think because of John Bell's greed and John Bell's way he was treating people with money, he had opened himself up to attack. And I guess the mother was a very good Christian lady, so she was not able to suffer that same attacking. Now, we can also look at the fact that this story has been possibly altered through the times, right? Like disappearing grapes out of thin air. Like, yeah, is
Yeah.
this kind of a tall tale that they've changed?
It's funny you mention that because apparently during this time, reading and writing wasn't like a thing in there.
Yeah,
So
you didn't have a lot of illiterate people back then.
so it could have been like when we mentioned last week, where the story's changed over time until when it's been wrote down, it's completely different.
So I'm even guessing. This is what my guess is. I'm guessing there's nothing that was coming out of thin air. I'm guessing there was no hymns being sung to her
Mm.
because a demon's not going to sing Christian hymns.
No, I find that hard to believe. But then again,
Yeah.
is that like to trick the people into believing that it's good though? Because we know what demons
That's
are like.
true. You hear that term "angel of light," which is being used to describe a demon that's posing as an angel, right?
Yep, absolutely. And there's actually one more theory. These incidents are to cover up a murder. Now, this is plausible because some of this stuff
Yes,
is
let's
not.
look at that because in some of this tall tale, I don't think there was a verbal, audible voice. Possibly not.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards it's like a cover up for a murder a little bit, but it's still again it's not concrete, unfortunately.
Well, then again, they did put it officially in the records
That
that
is
a
true.
spirit killed um,
That
John
is very
Bell.
true.
So could it be possibly that it was a heart attack and not
Or could it be that?
actually medicine that was done?
Yes, that is possible.
So
So
that's who knows when you have the tall tale part of it, anything can change, right?
yeah, absolutely. And apparently, to this day, even some of the Bell families are still getting like taught. No, I wouldn't say tortured in a way. So Bob Bell's grandmother. Now I've got a little story about this. So Bob Bell's grandmother obviously rang him up, and she was frantic, saying that I think somebody's in the house and stuff like that. So Bob, being the typical guy. Nice one, George.
George.
But yeah, so Bob obviously went on to obviously inspect the house, and apparently it's the silverware where obviously she kept all the stuff. There was literally plates and everything just literally thrown over all over. Now this is the confusing bit because the connection is obviously Bell, which is possible. Who knows? Is this linked or is this a separate story? I do not know with this one.
I don't know. That's a tough one. It's again the tall tales. You don't
Yeah.
know what's actually fact and what has been messed with over time, right? So
Yeah. And I have one more story. Now, you mentioned this briefly earlier on. Tim Henson, obviously, apparently, when people go to visit the house, they've been told not to take anything from the house.
right.
Now, apparently, Tim Henson went to a cave, which is apparently nearby the house, and he took a rock, just a simple rock, and apparently he lost his whole life. I think that's best to summarize it. He lost his whole life within the space of 3 days from this. Now, you mentioned something about this earlier on, saying like it sounds something similar.
Yeah. It was on the Jericho podcast, and he always has some paranormal stories in there. I always appreciate that.
And that pretty much sums everything up I have on this story. It's
And we're running really late in the show. That's okay. We're almost there, so I think we can kind of wrap this episode up. So obviously tomorrow we have the magic of wrestling. Who do you got on the show?
I have none other than Mr. Isaacs. He's back for a question time, and we're going to be answering some AEW questions, which I'm super excited for.
Well, also we got Chris Isaacs on a future episode of the All Left in Wrestling Show bonus episode after Dynamite.
Awesome. I look
I
forward
don't
to
know if
seeing
we're going
that.
to keep that name for the after Dynamite show. We're just going to call the All Left in Wrestling Show.
Effing Wrestle Extra.
I don't know. Maybe we'll just keep it Who knows? But yeah, we have the Bret Hart, the sons of Bret Hart, sons and daughters of Bret Hart, the wrestlers who were influenced to become wrestlers by Bret Hart. We got the top 10. Who do you think makes the list? Who do you think? Who you gonna put on that list? Don't you give our number one away?
Ooh, you could look at. There's absolutely loads. I cannot pick one because I think there's just so many. Because I feel like he's probably one of the most influential people in wrestling. So, off the top of my head, I cannot think of one. I'll be honest with you.
Okay, there you go. He's not revealing anything. And this is the part of the show, and I'm going to make you go first again because I went first last time. And that puts the pressure on me if you steal mine. So there we go. Here's our knowledge is power moment.
So, what could kids learn from today's story? With everything we covered, don't believe everything you read, kids. And if you see somebody who's really, really quiet, don't upset them because you never know what they could do.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
It's funny because I don't really think about what I'm going to say until I say it. So, kids, remember to always eat your vegetables and say your prayers. Woo! That was my own heart impression.
Sorry.
So that wraps it up for another episode of Wrestling with the Paranormal. And I hope that you enjoyed it. We had the new intro. And if you can, why don't you slap a T on your back and buy a shirt? We have many, many shirts. We'll even design you a shirt if you ask for a certain type of shirt. We'll go make it for you. What the hell? We're nice guys.
Very nice.
So head on over to Pro Wrestling Tees /FN Wrestling and slap a T on your back. And then you can head on over to fnwrestling.com and check out our stories, click on some ads. And if you want to check out our social media, you can find it there, or just click under this link. We got a link tree, we got a bio link, we got everything under there.
Right there.
Everything under there. And yeah, and remember, keep on wrestling with the paranormal.
And don't forget, have your cat spayed or neutered. Help control the pet population.
Hold me like the river Jordan, and I will then say to thee, and I am your friend. But you told me you gotta be faithful, you gotta be able, and remember, keep on fighting.